before you head out.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
And we've got Quentin in Valley City. Thanks for waiting. You're on with Phil and Matt.
Hey, Phil. Hey, Matt. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes, we can.
Hey, thank you guys for taking my call. And I assume the call screener told you guys what I'm talking about today.
Yeah, it said something about your family forcing you to go to church.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a college student, 19 years old, and I don't even go to church in the same city as them. But every time I go and visit on the weekend, it's always a matter of, you know, the question of, am I going to church with them? And I'll say no. But it always devolves into this kind of guilt trip of, well, you should be spending time with your family. And really, I can see why they want us to, you know, spend time with family. But I mean, like, that's not the family time that I want to be spending. And also, I don't necessarily think they even think church is a family time.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm actually spending time with my family if we're going to sit quietly in a pew and occasionally stand up and then sit back down and then occasionally stand up and sit back down. I mean, I could get better exercise, you know, watching, I don't know, a basketball game or something and watching other people stand up and sit down because I won't. But let me ask you this. Why don't you want to go?
Because I don't believe in it. Because I feel like I'm doing a disservice to my own family by putting on some persona that isn't me. Not only that, but I mean, like, along with that.
Have you mentioned that to them?
Sorry, excuse me.
Are they aware that you're, assume that they know that you're atheist, no?
Yeah, they know.
Okay. So have you communicated your concerns to them at all?
Yeah, I've talked about just, I've talked about, like, I don't want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, put on, like I said, that false persona of, like, I'm still your Christian son. Like, I'm your son, but I'm not a Christian.
See, I would go.
Not only that, but
I would go. I wouldn't put on any false persona. I would go, and I would take copious notes, and then I would ask loads of questions after the service was over.
And, you know, and I've watched plenty of your talks, Matt, and I've thought about that. And as much as I'd love to do that, and I would love to, you know, ask those questions, it becomes a problem of me also having two younger brothers. So my family puts me in a position where they tell me that they don't want me to talk about this and influence my brothers.
Okay.
But they also want me to go with them and, you know,
play the part.
Are you financially dependent on them?
During the summer, I would need them for a roof.
But I mean, are they paying for your schooling?
Actually, no. I do pay that myself.
Okay. Then.
And I also cook my own food because I eat differently than them. So.
Yeah, there has to be a way. There has to be a way to figure out. I mean, okay, your family doesn't want you to talk to your younger brothers about this, and my response is tough shit. I'm going to be honest with my family because I love them. I have a brother who's a Christian, and I have a niece and nephew. And what I told my brother from the get-go, actually, I'm going to my nephew's high school graduation here in a week or so. But what I told my brother from the beginning is I'm going to be honest with my niece and nephew. And I'm also going to tell them that if they have questions, they should come to you and talk. And you can, you know, give them feedback on whether you think I'm, you know, batshit crazy or whether you think I have a good point or anything like that. But I'm not going to lie and pretend to be somebody I'm not for their benefit. And so if they say, why does Uncle Matt not go to church? I'm going to say, because I don't believe in God and I already know more than most of the people sitting in the church know. So yeah, I'm not getting that much out of it. But if I can't be honest around my family, then why would I want to be around my family?
Yeah. Well, I guess I haven't thought about it in that way either. It's just, it just kind of boils down to this guilt trip because, like, my brothers don't know I'm an atheist. I don't even think I've mentioned the word atheist, you know, to my family. They just kind of know that I don't believe it.
And how old are they?
I have two younger brothers, so one's 13 and the other one's 10. And before I went off to college, I told them, I was like, you know, I'm not going to be hanging out with you guys as much as I'd like to, but I sat them down, and my family doesn't know I talked to them about this, but I told them, I was like, don't stop asking questions. Don't take, an answer and run with it. I mean, know why. Know why you believe in something.
How absolutely maddening and depressing is it that you had to sit down with your younger brothers to give them what almost anybody on the planet should acknowledge is good advice, and yet somehow this needs to be secret?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
hey,
exactly right.
Don't stop asking questions. Don't just accept what people are feeding you. Go out and ask more questions and be curious, and don't let people try to tell you who you are and should be. Find your own way. Trust good sources, things like that. The sort of advice that anybody should think is good, and yet you have to do it in secret. And oh, by the way, you can't tell them that you don't believe in the religion that your parents are pushing on them.
Yeah, that's the kind of part that kind of rubs me the wrong way, because it's like, well, what if they do ask as to, why you go to these church services, but you don't participate in anything, you're not really enthused. But what if they come to you later and say, hey, why are you not doing anything else? They may be in the choir or, participating in the little child services. And what are you doing? Like, what are you supposed to say to that? Do your parents expect you to lie to them to say that, or just not say anything at all? Like, did they set that expectation with you that you have to lie to them, or just not say anything ever about who you really are and what you actually believe?
They don't set an expectation for me to, lie to anyone. They asked, like, for example, I went to Easter Vigil with my, my step side of the family. I have a stepmom and a stepdad, and biological mom, biological dad, and they're all Catholic. And so basically when I went and visited, and went into multiple Easter vigils, it was a matter of my family asking me, like, are you going to go? And I said, yeah, because I don't need to necessarily explain a bunch of this to 4 family members, to 4 sets of grandparents who all think I'm the poster child of their Catholic family, who is, studying to even be a priest himself for a short period of time.
Is that?
Yeah, I know.
So here's something. There's a really good story from Penn Jillette that I've referenced a few times, where he will point out that if in fact you believed that there was a God and that he was doomed to hell, what kind of asshole would you have to be to not say something to that person? Now, I get that. I think it's real and true. If you're seriously convinced that there's a real problem to address, how much would you have to not like the person in order to tell them that? When it comes to that sort of proselytizing, I think that there are good responses, in the sense that if somebody comes and tells me my house is on fire and we keep checking and it's never on fire and it's never on fire every time they say this, that's an issue. But in anybody who thinks that they're doing good by preaching to you and letting you know what they believe, how can they not see that if you are not convinced this is true, and you are convinced, for example, that people have bad reasons for believing, and that the church is essentially taking a portion of their funds to finance things based on something that's not true, and potentially, supporting things that are not in our best interest, how much would you have to not like your brothers to tell them about it? And when they get to be 18 and they're getting ready to head off to college, and one of them figures out, wow, actually, my brother didn't believe that all this time. I wonder why he didn't mention it to me. Now, I'm not saying you should go tell your brothers. Whenever you're dealing with minor children and parental rights, it's a mess, including when it's your own family, and perhaps even more so when it's your own family. But if you're the type of person that your brothers know that you're always open to have conversations with them, you're not going to push anything on them, but you're there for them if they have questions, I think that's as good a thing as any. So when it comes to going to church, okay, I'm the type of person who would go and take notes right up till the point where I decided, okay, I'm done with this. You have to ultimately make a decision about where you're going to draw boundaries with your families. And as we saw, I didn't draw enough boundaries on my family all the way up until my 50th birthday when I got that card. And that's when I said, okay, this far and no further. And so don't expect, that you're going to have to do that right now at 19 while you're in college. You'll figure out the right way and how much you're willing to let them impact your life as it goes on. You don't have to fix everything today.
Yeah, like right now, my mom, sometimes when I go home, she does want to go to church together, and she wants to do that, familial thing where we go into, whatever church she's attending on that side. And I have gone several times to different churches that she's gone to, but it's also with the understanding that I'm not going to, play a part when I get there. I'm not going to, sit there and scream and holler or whatever else. I'm not going to, but I will listen. I will stand up when it's appropriate, when someone's coming in or as the service dictates. But when they say, bow your heads in prayer, I am not going to bow my head. I won't say anything, but I'll still just be looking around. And there's usually some kids that are, looking about, all that kind of good stuff. And so we have an understanding when I go there that I'm not going to play this part for her benefit or anyone else, because that's not.
And I'm in exactly the same position. And I think, we'll find out, I think Phil would agree with me. I would do that same thing even for religions I've never been a part of. If I happened to be with a group of people and they took me into, a Sikh temple, I would do my best to be respectful of that, because I'm in their place. I'm there as an invited guest, just like you don't come in and, take off your shoes and throw them across somebody's house and, take a crap on their carpet and whatever else. I mean, there's just something about being a decent person to get along with people. Maybe a funeral is not the right place to get up and chastise everybody for believing or not believing. And maybe when you're a guest in somebody else's religious service, you should just be a respectful observer. But you also should not feel compelled to go to something and do something that you don't want to do. I think you just have to keep talking to them and finding out new boundaries and letting them know, when I go there, I feel I don't want to be there. I feel like a fraud. I feel like I'm supporting something that I don't believe in. It would be like, how would you feel if when you came to town, I said, hey, why don't you come down to the Atheist Experience TV show with me? And, you'll be safe. You can sit on the other side of the glass and nobody will necessarily know that you're a believer. And, you can do all that. So how would they feel?
Yeah. I mean, and I've asked questions along the lines of that. I mean, so if I do go to church with my family, I'll sit, I'll stand, but I'm not going to kneel. And I haven't even explained my exact reasons for why I wouldn't kneel. But I basically told them, I'm like, well, would you kneel for a God that you don't believe in? And funny enough, they give me the answer of yes. And I actually call them out on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I call them out. Yeah. Tell them that.
Right, so is that a testable
what does the first commandment say?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll bring it up. I'll be like, well, what does the first commandment say? And I mean, you're doing a disservice.
Well, they'll get around that by saying, well, we're not putting that other God before our God. We're just being, blah, blah, blah.
Being respectful.
But also, I've been to midnight mass. I've been to Baptist churches, and I'm a former Baptist. And when they're doing the Lord's Supper and they pass everything down the row, I don't take the cracker and I don't take the wine, in part because I have an understanding that would actually be disrespectful to their beliefs for someone who's not a church member, not a believer, to actually partake in that. But if they...
Yeah, same reason why I wouldn't go up to get communion.
Right, yeah. It's exactly the same thing. Plus, you don't know which part of Jesus that is that you're eating.
Fact.
I mean, you could get a toenail and...
Yeah, or something worse.
Yeah.
I only like dark meat, so...
There you go.
Got to make sure of those things.
So you're not down with the blue-eyed Mormon Jesus. You want the proper,
No, the real one.
The real Jesus.
Authentic stuff.
Yeah.
Let's be clear here. To whatever extent Jesus existed, his hair was far closer to Phil's than mine.
Well, yours is slightly non-existent.
Well, I mean, if you could see my hair. But anyway, Quentin, I hope that helps him. And there's a couple things. First of all, feel free to call back and let us know how it goes and what decisions you made and how it impacted you. But also, it's worthwhile to look for not only local groups, but maybe organizations like Recovering from Religion, so that there are people you can talk to on a regular basis without having to, wait and hope that the Atheist Experience decides to take an atheist call and over a theist call, which doesn't happen all that often.
Sure enough.
Yeah. Well, and I really appreciate you guys listening to, I don't necessarily want to say my problems, but just listening to my situation. It's great that you guys are there.
You are not remotely alone.
Secular Student Club.
Yeah, you are not remotely alone. There's countless people who are going through exactly what you're going through.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I just hope you guys have a good one.
Yep, you too.
You as well, dude.
Thank you for calling.